Hello, everyone. We are back with another version of Vitamin B12, the podcast looking at all things Big 12 college football related. As usual, I'm Chris Armstrong. With me tonight, I have EJ Hayes, my partner in crime as always, and Garrett Sauls, who has been gracious enough to join us again, despite us trying to run him off several times.
Thanks for having me.
Now, today we are going to talk all the playoff scenario is set. All the bowl games are set. We are going to talk about who's in, chances of them winning, and what we have to look forward to this New Year's. So, to get started, let's talk about what really kind of changed the complexity or the face of the Big 12's bowl games, and that is the Baylor-Texas game. Let's recap that real quick, because how crazy was that?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. So, obviously, as three OSU fans looking at this game, beating TCU, losing to Baylor, and losing to OU puts us in kind of a tweener 2-3-4 spot compared to what happens, right? And so, as TCU beat Baylor for no other reason than the weather was horrible and nobody could throw a pass, and the fact that OU beat OSU, giving us two losses. So OSU, TCU, and Baylor all have, two losses. Basically, you go into that game with Texas basically being unpredictable at best. I mean, they beat OU. They lose to Iowa State. They get blanked by Iowa State, which is not radically confusing because Iowa State actually played pretty good football this year. But they're Iowa State. Well, it's anytime you get blanked by Iowa State, that's never good. No. And then they play teams like OSU extremely close. They basically botch a punt and lose that way. And then and it's just Texas is very hot and cold. So you go into this game and Texas had just recently found a running back. I mean, this true freshman who had 70 yards going into the what game was that? The Texas Tech game, and almost had 300 yards rushing. We discussed that last time, looking like a Heisman candidate. They figured out that Tyrone Swoops can actually pass, and then the big thing is Baylor's third-string quarterback, who had a little success against OSU, but did not have success against TCU. He and I don't know exactly when he went out, but it was pretty early when he got knocked out of the game with concussion symptoms, I believe. And so now Baylor is at a point where they are going to, I don't believe Baylor they have two scholarship quarterbacks and like a walk-on basically, or a guy playing another position. The fourth-string guy was a wide receiver. He had not played quarterback since his junior year of high school. And, at that point, you get into the interesting conversation of, well, can Briles really just plug and play any old schmuck in his system because he's a system guy. He's system quarterback. These guys aren't really good, Obviously, that's not true. So, those Baylor quarterbacks are actually good quarterbacks in a good system. So that's why they've had so much success. In a way, I kind of feel bad for Briles because, he does things and he does things to win. And I know I'm kind of talking this way because he lost, but the guy he's got a pretty good system for quarterbacks, I have to admit.
Yeah.
But working with a four-string guy.
Yeah. How can you? Unless you're Kansas State and you just Kansas State, I feel like every guy on their team played quarterback in high school at one point because they're all these small town Kansas kids, right? So it's just not the same. Baylor's going after these blue chip guys who have who have likely played the same position, for Lord knows how long. All Texas quarterbacks, stars in their own right, probably lead some pretty big schools in high school to win. But I think we saw that the system only works so long. But I think Baylor kind of succumbed to what OSU succumbed to towards the end of the season. I think they just ran out of gas on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's tough because I don't know how many picks Lynx Hawthorne, their wide receiver turned four-string quarterback through, but it was a lot. And Baylor's defense was pretty gassed against Texas, who ran the ball pretty effectively against Baylor. And it's interesting because I think some people thought I was crazy last week because I said, don't be surprised if Texas has a little success against Baylor, because you look at how OU beat Baylor, and it wasn't through the air. Baker Mayfield had a great game, but the reason OU won against Baylor was because of their running back tandem with Pirine and Mixon. They just ground them out, and I don't think Baylor's built for that.
It's the same reason they beat OSU. They just, Baker Mayfield was efficient, did what he needed to do, and kept everybody honest, which kept those two running backs just crushing souls. And that's exactly how they beat Baylor. That's exactly how they beat OSU.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people in the Big 12 kind of look at Texas pretty derisively, like, oh, they're so awful. I think we have this perception that they're no better than Kansas almost. But you look back, and their season could have been drastically different. They could have beat Cal. They could have beat Oklahoma State. They could have beat Texas Tech. And they did beat OU, and they did beat Baylor. So are they really that far away from being where they need to be? I don't think so. I think they're on the verge.
I would have totally agree. And I think because they beat OU and Baylor and had close games, just what you said, I mean, you're crazy to think I wasn't sweating bullets on that OSU-Texas game. Mm-hmm. You're crazy. They didn't have us beat, but they handed us the win at the last minute.
Yeah.
Now, they weren't, they're just, you're right. They're on the cusp, and I do believe Charlie Strong's a great coach, and I think he will turn that program around because, one, it's freaking Texas, and you can get recruits.
Yeah.
So give him 2 years, and they're going to be, crushing faces again. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah. I think most Texas fans believe. I think there are a few who are still upset, but I think most of them realize that this is probably the start of something good. Last year was the growing pains, definitely was, but this year, I mean, Texas is getting some momentum. They beat they almost beat a high-powered Texas Tech team who's kind of rallied towards the end of the season, and they did beat Baylor. But I think we've seen with this season ending just how valuable I think the quarterback position more than anything in the Big 12 is.
Yeah. So Garrett, you said that you weren't, you didn't feel sorry for Art Briles and him losing all those. Now I feel sorry for him, not for his record, but how he got to his record. And you just hate to see quarterbacks go out and get hurt like they did.
That's so imagine Baylor, a completely healthy Baylor with Seth Russell. I think they very well could have ran the table, but that just didn't happen. Injuries happen to everyone. It's happened to us. It's happened to Rudolph and Bedlam. It's happened to our defense. It's happened on not so much OU side of the ball, but TCU. I mean, without Boykin and Doxson, we've seen what happened there. K-State, no one really pegged K-State to be great this year, but we saw how those injuries have affected their season. I mean, it's all over the board.
Yeah, you don't have. Look at West Virginia. They're passing for like 130 yards a game. They had a few good games, but this is, Dana Holgerson we're talking about.
Right.
130. Anything if you hold Dana Holgerson under 200 yards historically, you have won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And they just simply don't have the quarterbacks. I don't know how, but quarterback play in the Big 12 is paramount.
Mm-hmm.
Like even Kansas State, their whole offense revolves around a running quarterback that pretty much is need the Optimus Prime situation like they've had over the past few years. But it's all about the quarterback. OSU looks like a different animal with a non-mobile quarterback. Mason Rudolph coming in at the end of the season, we were terrible. Couldn't run, couldn't pass. You insert Mason Rudolph, and we have a pulse against Baylor. We beat OU. We beat Washington State, or Washington.
Yeah, Washington.
Yes. And then all of a sudden he wins, 10 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like he's, that mobile. He just can move in the pocket and do little things with a weak offensive line. Well, huge, huge difference. So, one thing about we were talking about in quarterback in Texas is I don't know how they can't recruit a quarterback.
Yeah, it's a mystery to me. Ever since Colt McCoy, yeah. They haven't had a quarterback. They just haven't.
Well, it's almost like they didn't need one after him because he was there 4 years, started 4 years.
Yeah.
Never got hurt, really. Iron Man, you're not developing another guy. You didn't need to.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think a lot of times you don't develop a guy until you need to. Why, have, I think Briles has done a really good job of having a backup be ready to crush faces. I mean, Good Lord. I mean, for the last 3 or 4 years, the backup has been almost better than the starter. Like statistically, they come in and have 17 of 18 for 5 touchdowns in cleanup duty or something ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I think he's probably got the roadmap on what the Big 12 needs. 2-3 guys that can all compete and are all kind of the same mold. OSU, we're still getting out of that mold. Now our recruits we're doing 6'4", 6'5" guys that can throw the ball. That's our roadmap now after Walsh. So I think OSU is trying to put themselves in that position, but I just don't get how Texas can. I mean, it's like they had who was the white kid that was big but always got a concussion? Last couple of years. What's his name?
I know his name. He looks like Sunshine from Remember the Titans.
Yeah. It was like he was there for 7 years or something. And
it was the tandem between him and Case McCoy, and I think everyone thought Case was going to be Colt 2.0, but that didn't happen.
No, wasn't good. It's just
Speaking of injured quarterbacks, Bedlam was kind of a defeat because Mason was obviously hurt. J-Dub got the start, did pretty well.
Yep.
Couldn't pull out the W, but nothing cures a Bedlam hangover like getting into a major bowl, which happened because OU got into the college football playoffs. Mm-hmm. So with the fact that Texas beat Baylor, put Oklahoma State second, which then OU got into the college football playoff, which means OSU goes to the Sugar Bowl, which is the Big 12's bowl. So let's go ahead and move in and talking about the bowl games, and let's actually start off with OU and Clemson. OU is the number 4 spot, which means they have to play number 1, Clemson. So how do we think that's going to shake out?
It'll be interesting. Obviously, I think OU's got the edge on motivation because they're going to want revenge after being completely embarrassed last year. Clemson, I think, is a good team, but we've seen moments where they've been particularly weak. One that I noticed because I watched this game was when they played South Carolina, who is 2-9, something like that, and they almost lost against South Carolina. And then if you watch the ACC title game, that could have gone very differently if some things happened or should have, Well, yeah. So I guess my point is Clemson's kind of like this year's Ohio State. I mean, they didn't lose, so they're not a good 1-for-1, but they've kind of squeaked by a few times, and people are asking, well, do they really deserve to be number 1? Is the ACC really that strong? Don't you think that maybe there are some other better teams? And I think at a glance, OU looks like the better team. I mean, we know OU, and we know the competition that OU's faced, but, I mean, Clemson beat Notre Dame. They beat Florida State. They beat North Carolina in the ACC title game, so it's hard to argue, who's better. I mean, both kind of have a similar resume, but it'll be an interesting game. I think we're in for a pretty good high-scoring game. I think it's just whoever has the edge on motivation, and I think that's going to be OU. But I will say Dabo Swinney will probably prepare his guys pretty well. He's a pretty good coach, so who knows.
Well, hopefully it prepares his punter at least.
Yeah.
So obviously that was a reference to his punter taking it upon himself to fake a punt
when
in the middle of the game with being down at the moment, and he didn't even get close. So, yeah, I thought Dabo was going to have a I'm going to punch you in the face moment and get fired on national television. I mean, he was going ape on him. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It's just funny because he won it, but if he'd have lost that would have been, I think that'd have been his downfall. He'd have freaked out. Rightfully so. I mean, good Lord. On the after show, as a tangent, how we do here, Mac Brown said that he had a punter. He told the punter, he said, now, if you think you can get it, go for it. But if you don't think you can get it, punt it. And, of course, the punter went for it all day, went for it. And he didn't get it. And he came back, and Mac's telling him, why'd you go for it? You couldn't get that. He's like, well, you told me. And he said, never again. Never again. So I was like, I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
He might have given him an option. Everything flowed to the right, except the guys going downfield didn't block the two guys in front of them, so they didn't know what was happening. So I'm pretty sure it was not called or an option. But that just shows you why, when you're like, oh God, he could just run for it. No, it's harder than you think if people aren't blocking. Yeah. So, and then that offsides deal where North Carolina. Anyway, that was some pretty good football last night. Gentlemen. Yeah.
That was the only championship game I did not fall asleep during. So there's that.
Yeah, Big Ten is some pretty snooze fest football. It's almost SEC-like.
I was going to say, they played very SEC ball if you look at the box score.
Very, very weird scores, like 9-5, just odd numbers. You don't know how they got there. So
for the longest time, it was 2-0 Alabama over to Florida, which was just brutal.
Yep.
So what about two higher scoring offenses in Oklahoma State and Ole Miss? Oklahoma State is 0-2 against Ole Miss. Both losses coming in Cotton Bowls. How do you guys like our chances this year?
I don't know. I think this one's going to be a pretty even matchup. I was looking at the stats, and they're pretty similar from a passing perspective. Obviously, you would think that Ole Miss could probably run the ball better than OSU because everyone can. But I was looking at that too, and they're really only 1 yard per carry average higher than us. I think they're averaging 5 per carry, and we're averaging 3.8. So is that a huge difference? I don't know, but it's better than us. So they got the edge there. But we throw for a little more. Their quarterback, Chad Kelly, throws for a few more picks. But they have Laquan Treadwell, who's a star receiver. I don't know if you remember, but he almost went to OSU, I think, if I remember correctly, a few years back. So that'll be interesting, the story of where he could have been, and obviously he's probably the SEC's best receiver, bar none. So there's that, but, I mean, is this anything that Oklahoma State isn't used to seeing? I mean, no. We play these type of guys, throughout the entire season.
Well, so, yeah, TCU and Baylor, and then, Broyles for OU, all three of those, have by far number one receivers that are probably better than Treadwell. I haven't done a lot of homework on Ole Miss. Now, who is it? Ole Miss that was ranked high and then just basically fell off the planet, or
it was after I think they lost to Memphis. There goes Chris. They lost to Memphis, and that kind of tanked them down a little. And then they went and lost to Arkansas on that crazy play, I believe. I believe it was that game, the one where it was kind of the lateral fest. And then Arkansas got like the first down at the last second and beat them or in overtime or something like that. I don't know. But anywho.
So they've had a few close games.
Yeah, and they tanked after those. But you know how the CFP committee is. They're going to sneak them back up there. I think Ole Miss was probably generously ranked when maybe they shouldn't have been, and now they're like at number, I didn't look, I think 12 or something like that. So, but, I mean, they're just as deserving, I'm sure, at this point.
Well, I tell you what, all I've seen today from social media is that Gundy basically said that, Mason's going to play after his surgery, which I hate to say it means he's not going to play because that's how Gundy rolls. So if he was not going to play, then Gundy would say, or sorry, if he was definitely going to play, Gundy would say, no, he's probably not going to play because he'd want them preparing for the other quarterback. That's just how Gundy does it. And so that is what concerns me. If we have Rudolph and J.W. Walsh and get back to our form, if we get 47 back, if we get Seaton back, if we have healthy defensive linemen that are a little gas at the end of the season, this could be a fun game. If we don't have Mason back, I'm a little concerned. It's just not what we do. I think he's deadly. Like third downs are just deadly with Rudolph. It's just that's the difference in our season. If he's in there on third down and he can pass it to his go-to guys, that's what makes or breaks our season. So to me, it really stems on what's going to go down there. So surgery on your foot, that's kind of concerning, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not so confident that Rudolph will play. But, we look back to the Bedlam game, and the reason we lost wasn't because of J.W. Walsh. He played a great game. He threw one pick. He underthrew some balls, but I think that was intentionally because he knows he's not going to zip it with the same efficiency that Rudolph is. But the reason we lost that game was defense. And I think it's going to be the same with this Ole Miss matchup. I think it's going to be whoever's defense comes to play. That's going to be the deciding factor. Because I think both teams, Ole Miss and OSU, when we play, will score some points regardless of who's behind center. I think it'll just be a matter of, does Emmanuel Ogba show up? Do the defensive tackles, now that our defense has some rest, will they start to be like they used to be and start getting more sacks and start really affecting that line and winning the battle in the trenches? And will our secondary get back to their ball hawking ways? I think that will really determine who's going to win this game. I think turnover margins is just going to come down to that, like it usually does.
Yeah.
So I think it's contingent upon whether or not OSU can rest up and return their defense. If they do, I like our chances to win a close one. If they don't, then no way.
Yeah. So how ticked off is North Carolina going to be when they take on Baylor?
They're going to be so mad.
Really, 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 really upset. Yeah, this ought to be bad, especially if Baylor can't figure out how to, keep
a quarterback.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got that third string guy, Johnson, who's pretty much unproven and did not do well against TCU, and he wasn't doing well against Texas when he got hit. Yeah, this could be really bad. North Carolina's good.
Yep.
I mean, they're, Fedora, I just like his attitude. I've always liked Fedora.
Right.
The only thing I didn't like about Fedora was, our guys like popping up the whole, meerkat offense. You're like, down set, and everybody pops their head up. I just hated that. But other than that, I loved his swagger. I loved the fact that, I just like Fedora. So I just think he's a good coach, and I think, he showed me a lot when he didn't flip out on those calls he was getting and the offsides thing. He really gained a lot more respect for me there because he knew what was at hand. I mean, national playoff for North Carolina are at stake here. That's big time. And he was pissed, but he didn't flip out like I thought he should have.
Yeah.
A lot of respect. But the fact of the matter is they feel dissed. I would too.
Yeah.
And they're gonna hurt Baylor.
This is going to be like TCU last year. TCU got snubbed. Very angry and went and just absolutely destroyed Ole Miss. And so I think North Carolina is going to come with a similar attitude. And Baylor, I'm not sure if Stidham's completely out for the rest of the season, if he'll be healthy by bowl season, or if Johnson will be in, or what they're going to do. But I think if it's anyone but Stidham or Russell, but Russell's not going to come back, Baylor's going to have a rough time, just because I just think North Carolina is that good. They're going to be that angry, and we've seen Baylor kind of run out of gas I think they're going to not have very high motivational levels. And this is, classic Baylor. The past few bowl games that they've gone to. Well, I mean, we saw what happened, last year. They played Michigan State, which Michigan State's a good team, but they kind of have a tendency when they're on a big stage to crap the bed. So I don't know if that keeps on in this bowl game. They're going to have to prove us wrong, I think, otherwise.
Didn't they lose to UCF and Blake Bortles the year before that? I mean, just get annihilated. And they were healthy then, too, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
They have the talent. They can do it. I think it's just going to be contingent upon if they get a good quarterback back there or they come with a better plan. And I can't blame them. When you're on your fourth stringer who's not a quarterback, how do you ever plan for that?
Yeah, especially in a timing / instinct / repetition offense like Baylor runs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just impossibility.
Yeah, you got to know the offense. So
Baylor takes on North Carolina Tuesday, December 29th in the Russell Athletic Bowl. TCU takes on Oregon in the Valero Alamo Bowl.
That'll be a fun one.
Is on Saturday, January 2nd. So what do you like TCU Oregon?
Well, so obviously Oregon has their quarterback back, right? So he went out mid-season, and that's when they started losing, and he's back, and that's when they started winning. And so the same thing for TCU. Boykin, he's been hobbled. He's still been pretty effective, even hobbled. But if he can get, his high ankle sprain back to twitchy Boykin, this should be a crazy game. I'm actually excited about that game. I'd love to go to that game. This could be like 60-61. I mean, I'm telling you, this could be crazy.
It'll be a fun one. And I'm not too familiar with TCU's injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but I have to imagine that with their defense getting a little rest, I think they'll be obviously in a lot better position to kind of compete and kind of be that TCU defense. We've all grown to expect a Gary Patterson defense in the Big 12. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be a high-scoring one. Obviously, Oregon isn't Oregon 2-3 years ago. This isn't the same Oregon. But they're a vastly underrated team out of the Pac-12 North. I mean, it's just going to be a fun one. There's going to be a lot of points scored, I'm sure. But I think outside of, obviously, the college football playoff, the Orange Bowl with OU and Clemson, and obviously Oklahoma State and Ole Miss, this has got to be easily the number 3 favorite one. I'm definitely tuning into this one. So.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So Texas Tech takes on LSU, which brings Les Miles back to Big 12 country.
This one's going to be X-rated. This is going to be not available.
No, wait, hold on.
Not safe for work.
Hold on. No, Texas Tech beat Arkansas, and Arkansas beat LSU.
That's true. It's true. But Leonard Fournette, I mean, this guy's going to run for 1,000 yards. He is going to break the single-game NCAA rushing record because we've learned that even Oklahoma State can look good against Texas Tech's rush defense. But, I will say this. Look, I'm not too keen on LSU's defense. I don't think LSU is that great. I think the SEC kind of took a step back this year. And so we're kind of seeing them on more of a level playing field. And I obviously, Texas Tech can sling with anyone. Mahomes is great. They're going to score points. I can guarantee you that. So maybe this is a shootout in a weird kind of way.
I think it is. I think Texas Tech puts it on them in the past, and LSU just runs up their gut. This is going to be, that is a weird matchup. TCU Oregon feels good. Baylor North Carolina, if Baylor were healthy, feels good. OSU Ole Miss kind of feels good. OU Clemson, but this does not feel good. I'm like, dang, I saw that and I was like, oh no. But hey, Texas Tech plays with swagger, man. They took it to Texas. They took it to TCU when they were healthy. I mean, I'm telling you, Texas Tech can play.
That is the thing about Texas, is they always think they can win.
Well, of course they can. They dropped 50 on us, and they were ahead in the second half.
Well, for the sake of Texas Tech's defense, I will argue this for them, that LSU cannot throw the ball. Much like Oklahoma State cannot run the ball, LSU cannot throw the ball. I mean, outside of, Ole Miss, what SEC team can? So I think LSU is a glaring example of this. Their quarterback is just not. I mean, he's a game manager. His job is to hand the ball to Leonard Fournette. That's it.
So to me, this begs the question, and this is a philosophical question. I think if, like, in this matchup, you have LSU versus Texas Tech. Texas Tech cannot stop the run physically with their guys. It's like playing like a third-grade girls team. Like, you could just run right through them, and it's kind of fun until their dad comes over or whatever. But so the begs the question is, you have a blatant team that can pass and a blatant team that can run, and of course the guys can't stop either. We'll say LSU can't stop the pass. That's probably not as true as the Texas Tech version. Which has the advantage, the running team or the passing team? Because running team, your handoff, you run the clock, you can control the clock. The passing team has the potential of bigger plays faster, right? Or you can run clock or you can stop clock, right? So the question really, I think, and this is more of a philosophical thing, and I think we'll see it in this game. This is like a perfect matchup of weirdness, of inverse, properties.
Yep.
Who has the advantage?
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I have to think that whoever, I call this the Kansas State effect, but whoever can control the clock better and bleed more of it out will win. And I think that's got to be LSU. But and just the pass in general is a little more unpredictable than the run. The run, it's I don't know.
It drops and interceptions.
Stop it. But the pass game, I mean, you might get lucky. You might.
Now, the better question: where are they playing? What venue?
They are playing the Advocare V100 Texas Bowl in Houston.
In the Texan Stadium in a bowl?
Yeah, but it's in Houston, so I'd have to think that there's. I think it'll be pretty.
If it's in a bowl and it's not cold, then Texas Tech has the upper hand. If this were in like the Ice Bowl in some crazy place that had cold weather, I think obviously LSU. So that's even more interesting, right? If it's in a controlled environment, this could be a cool game.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. This is one I definitely want to. I want to see. It's just for
what date is it on, Chris? What date?
It is December 29th.
Okay. Yeah.
Same day as Baylor, North Carolina.
Okay.
So, and then the last Big 12 bowl that we have is West Virginia, Arizona State, who play in the Cactus Bowl out in Phoenix on January 2nd.
Well, so obviously that's
Arizona State home game.
Yeah. Wow. You can't get much further for West Virginia in, backyard of Arizona State. Dang.
But you could say that about Texas Tech being in Houston or,
that's true.
TCU playing in San
Houston,
Antonio.
LSU. I mean, that's, Houston's
that's true.
By Louisiana.
Right. Houston's right there, but
actually, I think it's closer to Louisiana, isn't it? Houston's closer than Lubbock. Lubbock is forever away.
Oh yeah. New Orleans is way closer than Lubbock.
The Buttocks.
It's Texas. There's gonna be some Raiders here or there, so I think they'll be pretty well represented by both. But I think LSU they're gonna have more people. But this West Virginia Arizona State one. West Virginia hasn't been very good on the road. I think they've only won one road game this year, and this is essentially, like we said, an Arizona State home game. But this is the one I really don't know about. I think West Virginia has a really good defense. We've seen that. Even later on throughout the year, their defense is probably the best part about them. I think whether or not they can compete is whether or not Skyler Howard can take care of the ball, their quarterback. He can sling it. We've seen that he can sling it, but he also kind of has a tendency to throw a few turnovers.
He gets sacked a lot. I think he tries to run it, and he's not quite good. He gets sacked a lot. Yeah. Also, do we know anything about Arizona State? I mean, they've really not been on the radar all season.
No. They're usually competitive in the Pac-12 South, but this year, I think, obviously you have UCLA, you have USC who are at the top there. Arizona, they have kind of been a non-factor. They're kind of middle of the road, Pac-12, kind of like West Virginia's middle of the road Big 12.
Yeah, they finished 6-6 this year.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
They finished right in the middle of the Pac-12 South, behind Utah, USC, UCLA, right above Arizona, right above Colorado.
I think I like. I mean, I know this is in Arizona, but I like West Virginia. West Virginia's had some close games this year. Their season could be very different. Holgerson, he's a mad genius. Despite maybe taking a step back, I like them. I think they'll do well.
Yeah, so we previewed a little bit of the OU Clemson game.
Oh, we have one more Big 12 bowl.
Yep.
By the way, and that's Kansas State and Arkansas.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Sorry about that.
Arkansas. That could be interesting.
This will be a Big 10 game or an SEC game. I mean, we all know K-State. They're probably the most Big 10-esque out of any Big 12 team there is. I think this will be an even matched, clock-burning one. What you'd expect.
Yep. Okay, so we did talk about OU Clemson. Let's talk the other Big 12, or the other college football playoff game, Alabama Michigan State in Arlington, Texas, at the Cotton Bowl. What do you guys think about this one?
Well, so first, Michigan State's running back is awesome. Like, that guy, like watching him last night for the first time this season, I'll admit, I just don't watch a lot of Michigan State games. That's fine. But I was truly watching him against Iowa, and he would get hit and somehow get 3 to 4 more yards. And it was, this guy, he had not only, it wasn't open field vision, it was really closed field vision. He could just, it was like a cross between closed field vision where you're juking and stuff, but it was like a power juke. That guy's awesome. He won the game. When he was stopped on third down and then he just turned and reached over the goal line, it was good football.
That was incredible.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, and then, of course, Cody Cook.
Yeah.
You give him a few weeks here to, get healthy, with the shoulder injury. I think, obviously Alabama, they're Alabama. They've the things I just said was good about Michigan State. Alabama does better, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe not the quarterback. Maybe that's more even, but the running back. Obviously they've got. Dude has 1,900 yards rushing, so
this will be an interesting one. I think these two teams match up really well for each other. A team like Alabama, Michigan State's seen that all year. They played that against Ohio State with Ezekiel Elliott. And Ezekiel Elliott's a pretty good running back, not far from Derrick Henry, I would imagine, at Alabama. So I don't know. I think both will be ready for each other. I think it's going to come down to who can actually pass the ball. And you have to like Connor Cook over Coker, is it, over at Alabama?
He does the big play thing really well, and he's deceptively mobile. It not really, almost like Mason Rudolph mobile. He kind of moves around pretty good, kind of like Tom Brady's slow, but he moves around pretty good. Mm-hmm. At least the 3 to 4 games I've seen him play this year, he just kind of is a little nifty. I wouldn't say he's a runner at all, but they do run him every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And he's just kind of that normal, Alabama, USC looking quarterback. Nothing special. I don't think he'd thrive in the Big 12 necessarily when slinging the ball, but he does have a nice deep ball, and he usually throws 2 to 3 long deep balls that change these, 2-0 games. He does do that. And then, of course, he has a lot of support with that ridiculous running back and ridiculous offensive line. You look at that offensive line, and it's just like, this is like the NFL. They're so big. They're so close together. It's like, okay, we got to put like 8, 9 guys to stop this guy, and guess what? Over the top. Yeah. It's prototypical pro-style offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. I think they play very similar. Really, my question there is, what's your opinion on the matchup? I mean, they had a chance to put OU at 3 or 2, right? So they purposefully put Clemson and OU together, and Michigan State and Alabama together. Do you think there was strategy there to get one high-powered team or more exciting team versus the old school team?
Well, you know what this is setting up for? This is just my theory. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of different theories. I think my theory is that, so if OU were to have retained the number 3 spot and played Alabama, assuming everyone else stayed the same, I think out of all the teams in the college football playoff, Alabama matches up the best with OU. And same goes for, well, actually, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to set up an OU-Alabama rematch championship. So they're going to get all the rematches they want this year. They're going to get OU and Clemson, and I think they're thinking that OU is probably going to take care of Clemson, and then Alabama will probably squeak out a 12-3 win against Michigan State, and they'll meet in the college football championship, and Walmart will go crazy selling T-shirts.
Because really, who stands to benefit most from this? It's Walmart.
It's going to be a madhouse.
It's awesome.
So, but anywho, I do think there's some strategy, and I think that's because I think they want OU to get up there. I think they want Bama to get up there, and I think they're trying to maybe stack the deck so that they can see this happen. Because the thing is are you going to tune into OU Alabama, or are you going to turn into Alabama Michigan State for the championship, or Alabama Clemson for the championship? No, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think their highest rated, it's all about money, right? It's always all about money. The highest rated games have always been the Oregon versus whoever, or the Auburn versus whoever, the high powered versus the defense versus the offense, that whole thing. You got to have a little excitement. The only good thing about the Big Ten championship was the Gus Johnson was calling it. Other than that, it would have been putting people to sleep. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the only way they could get hype in that game. Not saying it wasn't good football. I'm not saying it was a good strategic football. I'm not saying it's not good pro NFL style football. And I'm not saying those guys, suck. I think Iowa and Michigan State both have pretty dadgum good players, quarterbacks, offenses, but they also have good defenses. Mm-hmm. But it's just not the same as the Oregon, the Baylor, the OSU, the OU type offenses. Now, OU brings an interesting mix because they have the potential with Baker Mayfield to do that thing. I mean, especially he's almost like a cross between, with his efficiency, he's almost a cross between like a Baylor quarterback and like Boykin, because his running ability, I'm telling you guys, he is so fast. It's unbelievable, especially in the pocket. He's ridiculous. He's almost too fast for his own good. And then the straight power running, game. Those two guys, Mixon and Pirine, had almost 2,000 yards rushing. Mm-hmm. It may have been over 2,000. One was 7-something and one was 12-something. So combined, they've got this beast mode, guy that never gets tired, right? Yeah. And so, OU brings an interesting aspect to the whole exciting offense. Clemson, I don't know how they fit in, although their quarterback is pretty dadgum good. Yeah. And, the receivers are really good. What was the running back situation? I don't even remember.
Oh, let's see here. Clemson, I got some stats pulled up about them. Well, they've got a 1,300-yard back.
Wow.
So that's pretty good.
Wow.
Wayne Gallman. They've got another one, Deshaun Watson, who has 887 yards. So they've got two really good backs, both with 10 and 11 touchdowns each. But they're averaging 5 per carry.
What does OU average?
Let's see here. It's got to be pretty good. I got to imagine it's not higher.
So, as he's looking that up, Chris, let's kind of go into the next set of bowls, kind of the bowls that don't mean anything now, but they used to mean something, kind of the BCS bowls, if you will. So there's actually some great matchups, I think.
Yeah, so the Fiesta Bowl is Notre Dame, Ohio State, which should be really interesting.
Oh yeah, this is good stuff, right? I mean, you couldn't ask for better bowls.
No, I think I really like that one for some reason. I think mostly because we have been railing on both of those teams they're probably a little bit overrated, but I think it'll be a lot of fun to see them match up together.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, just to interject with those OU stats, Deshaun Watson, I should correct myself, is actually Clemson's quarterback, and he has 887 rushing yards and 11 rush touchdowns. So that's great. And then they have their really good back. They have 2,800 overall. OU, their stats are really similar. They're 5.2 per carry. And obviously, P. Ryan, he's got about 1,300. Mixon's got 749. And then Mayfield's got about 420. So it's hard to say who's got the edge there. Obviously, they've got a really good mobile quarterback who can sling it too. So it's like seeing the same team match up against itself, really.
Wow. Yeah, and then you have the whole storyline of their defensive coordinator and him just ruling OU's offense last time they saw each other.
Wait, it's Venables, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Brent Venables. Oh yeah, this is good stuff, guys. This is really good stuff. I mean, you know, after OSU gets into after the two brutal losses, gets into the Sugar Bowl, man, now that my head's clear after Bedlam lost, this is some great football coming up. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, but sorry, continue on.
Well, the next one that going down the line, you got Iowa, Stanford. So obviously Stanford and McCaffrey, I believe is his name. Good God, that guy's a freak.
Yeah,
like, he's a total freak. Like I can't tell because nobody ever touches him. Like, is he that good that he's just like finds space? Because every time I see a Stanford game, he's just running wild and nobody's touching him.
I think that he is really good. I think he's very wily, but Stanford also is known for their massive offensive line. I mean, Stanford's always had good running backs like Stephon Taylor, a few other people. Obviously, Barry Jr. is there, but he's a returner right now. But they just have a really good line. Whoever their line coach is does an excellent job, and that's why they can run it so effectively.
While we're on that, how funny is it that McCaffrey beat, I say beat in 13 games what Barry Sanders did in 11, but whatever. His total yards per season, total yards, while his son was on the same team. I mean that's a pretty interesting storyline.
Yeah.
Do you think Barry Sanders Jr., who's on Stanford's team currently, he's a junior this year, right?
I don't know.
Do you think he'll ever see the field, much like his dad didn't see the field till his last year, if you will, like kind of sitting the bench for a while and doing some punt returns? And then do you think he'll have his day? Do you think he'll have his time to shine?
It just depends. Obviously, Stanford does a pretty good job recruiting. I'm not sure who Stanford's number 2 back is behind McCaffrey. I've seen Barry Jr. run it a few times though, and he's done well. It's not like he's just young, but I don't know. I don't know if he'll see his time or if Stanford has another back behind McCaffrey who's kind of in line to do that.
I don't think he's young though. That's what the thing is I think he may be a senior this year or next year.
Really?
Like, I'm pretty sure, because he was kind of the same time, and I can't remember his name. Who was the running back that OSU had that got in trouble and they kicked him off the field? But he was like a 5-star guy. And he had like 1 or 2 games that he came in and ran for like.
Oh, Desmond Gordon, maybe?
No.
Herschel Sims?
Yes. So Herschel Sims was one of the reasons. So he was a 5-star running back, and he was one of the reasons that we didn't recruit. Yeah, I mean, honestly, which is ridiculous. But anyway,
we could use
that was a while ago.
So Barry Sanders Jr. is a senior.
Oh, this year. Yep. That's terrible.
Man. But he's had his time, and maybe it's just the fact that it's unfair to compare him to Barry Sanders Sr. How do you compare to arguably the greatest college football player ever. Arguably the greatest running back, both college and pro ever.
Yeah.
How do you do that? So, maybe it's a lot to ask. That's just how it goes.
Maybe that's a lot to ask. You only have his genes and his name. I mean, come on. Maybe it's a lot to ask. I don't know.
Yeah. So the other bowl is the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Number 9 Florida State versus number 18 Houston.
Okay, I'm pretty sure last week I said nobody wants to play Houston in a bowl.
No.
And so the winner is Florida State. Sorry, Florida State. You're about to get whooped by a little girl.
Yeah.
No offense, Houston, but you know what I'm talking about.
No, I think Houston will come out of this one hot. They're excited. I think they're fighting for respect. Florida State, I'm sure all they ever hear is how great they are, and I think they know that they're not maybe that great. They kind of got into this bowl by virtue of,
being in a weak ACC.
Yeah, being in a weak ACC, and I'm sure, they probably realize that North Carolina is probably a little more deserving than they are of being in the bowl.
So Florida State is still a good team. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. My question to you guys is even though Houston's kind of whooped up on everybody -1, they've still played really not as good teams. So have they played anybody that's actually good this year? Who has Houston played?
They have played. Well, I mean, they played Memphis, but that's like playing Houston. They're another team that maybe doesn't play the same quality of opponent.
They got beat by Memphis, didn't they?
I think so. I think that was their one loss.
Yeah. So, I'm still not sold on Houston when I really come down to it, playing a big boy team. But this is kind of I like this. So okay, let's go back. Say we had an 8-team playoff, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hang on real quick. Let me stop you there. Houston actually beat Memphis 35-34.
Okay.
Their one loss was actually to Connecticut, which was the week after.
Okay.
20-17. I mean, they beat SMU, Vanderbilt, Cincinnati. They beat Navy. They beat Temple.
Navy was a really big win.
Yeah, they beat Louisville. So they've played some mid-major teams that are up and coming, I would say.
Yeah. So, Louisville, by name and coach, is a good win. Although I think Louisville hasn't played up to what they should be.
Yeah.
I like the matchup. I think it's an interesting one. It caught my eye for sure, and I think it's good for Houston, and I think it'll just perpetuate them even further than they are, being the Baylor of the mid-level. What I mean by that, it's an up and coming. They've been up and coming for a while because they've had a string of offensive-minded coaches, and they've been able to recruit a little better. So
Yeah. Well, hey, lest we forget, wasn't it Dana who came from Houston? Kevin Sumlin came from Houston.
Bryles. Didn't Bryles come from Houston?
I think Bryles came from Houston too.
Oh yeah. I mean, they've had everybody go through there. I mean, the Texas Tech coach was under Kevin Sumlin.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and TCU's coach was under the last guy they had. So Sonny Cumbie, wasn't he the offensive coordinator at Houston? I mean, so you've got all these Texas Tech guys going through there. You know what I'm seeing? That lineage. So I mean that's an interesting matchup. We'll see if they can hang. And of course, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, in the Sugar Bowl.
Yep. So let's get back to the main playoff games. We have this little graphic here. Best chances to win the national championship based on ESPN's Power Football Index, which we've done a little bit of research, and it's supposed to be basically if these teams played 10,000 times, what would happen. It's supposed to represent. It's supposed to be the best predictor of a team's performance, based on, like I said, just some simulations, some results to date. So I think we all kind of boiled it down to how is ESPN feeling about us today? So right now it has OU at the top actually, even though they're ranked number 4. They have the best percentage chance to win at 39%. Right under them it's Alabama, and then Clemson, and then Michigan State, which kind of goes back to what you say, Garrett, a little bit. Is they want to try and get these matchups. They're maybe trying to set up an OU Alabama championship game because those guys are the big. It also kind of plays a little bit into what EJ was saying about the juggernaut theory.
Mm-hmm.
And well, OU's the juggernaut, Alabama's the juggernaut, Clemson is a little bit of a newcomer right now. Michigan State kind of is just getting in as well. So, how do you guys think that this matches up with what we've been talking about? And do you guys agree with these things? Does OU really have the best chance to win? They've been playing some outstanding football recently. Alabama has been playing some pretty decent football. Michigan State, though, is pretty hyped up.
Yeah.
Do you guys see this as being legit, or are they just making stuff up?
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, I mean, it's weird. This FPI statistic, what is it even based off of? I don't know. Like you said, I think it's just ESPN's flavor of the week thing. But, I mean, it's hard to argue that OU and Alabama will be the two favorites. I think, in my opinion anyway, OU probably is the favorite to win it all. I like their balance. But then again, Alabama, they have that great that great rushing attack, and we saw how OU fares against a team that is designed like that in Texas. So it's hard to say. I think they've got OU and Alabama in the right order. What I don't necessarily agree with is I think Michigan State needs to be ranked a little higher. I think they need a little higher percentage. I would put them above Clemson, and I would put it a little closer to OU and Alabama, just because you look at Michigan State, and we argue that the Big Ten maybe is a little overrated, but they have the best resume out of anyone there. I mean, they played Michigan, they played Ohio State, they played Iowa. They've played all of those teams that are pretty good teams. If we're getting down to it. And so, who else did they play? I think they played someone early in the season that was somewhat impressive. But anyway, my point is this: I think Michigan State probably has the best record out of these guys, and I think they deserve a little more respect than 11% to win it all. But that said, I think OU should probably be the one who's picked favorite.
Well, I'm pretty confused on that because I don't understand how. Now, put that back up, Chris. Put that back up.
Okay.
I don't understand how OU plays TCU backup quarterback and basically just loses. You don't think Alabama or Clemson's going to be whacking, Baker Mayfield? They knock him out of the game. That changes the whole situation. And he's already had a recent concussion. Yeah, I mean, I guess Mayfield is really the game changer in this situation and was when they played poorly at TCU. But it's just so. I mean, I guess you can't really take injury into that equation. I know this is why we play the games, but I just don't know how they pick OU to be the most. I mean, that is like a complete and utter diss on Clemson. Clemson puts this on the locker room wall, and then Clemson murders some people. Clemson comes into this game fired up because of that graphic right there. They're like, say what? Don't you know what we did to them last year? And we weren't even supposed to win the game, I'm pretty sure, last year. So it's on like Donkey Kong. That is a complete and utter diss of Clemson. And that right there is some interesting stuff right there. So I saw that and I was like, wait, what? Don't get me wrong. OU is playing, I agree. They're playing very well. They're very balanced. Very good team. But Clemson is also playing well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. And as you were talking, I was really kind of thinking about Michigan State. They are very battle tested, maybe more battle tested than anyone on that board.
Yeah.
And so, this is going to be interesting, guys. I'm actually really. I think they did a pretty dadgum good job of picking the 4 teams. I don't think there's a lot of controversy here.
But I think maybe that's, maybe before we give the committee too much credit,
Yeah.
Some things fell into place. Some things fell into place. Their job wasn't hard this year. I think. So let's say, for example, Stanford has one loss. Maybe Notre Dame doesn't have. Did Notre Dame finish with 2 losses? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say Stanford and Notre Dame has one loss. Does OU get left out? Does someone get left out? I think a lot of people. I think the committee's like, oh look, we included the Big 12 team. Stop whining now. We're not biased. We're not biased. But I think all the chips just fell into the right place to where they really couldn't have made any other decision than put these top 4 in. There's literally no controversy after that.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, if the Big 12 had a one-loss team that's not OU or Texas, we would be in the, if it were Baylor, TCU, or Oklahoma State, we would definitely be in this interesting conversation, because then you just look at your juggernauts and go, whoa, we've got Ohio State on the brink, we've got Notre Dame on the brink, we've got Stanford, who's playing very well with a Heisman contender on the brink, we've got one-loss Iowa. Yeah, Big 12's out because they don't have a conference championship.
Yeah.
It's interesting because they had, when OU won, they pretty much crowned them. I mean, and everybody said they're in for sure. There's no doubt OU's in. Well, that wouldn't have been the conversation if it had been a one-loss OSU, Baylor, or TCU.
No.
And that's the fact of the matter of I think I'm glad OU got in because of the Big 12, because I think they deserve it. But I kind of wish we would have got snubbed in a way so that we could have possibly, got the conference championship, or got, the situation that allows a Big 12 to always be in a strong position for this college playoffs. Because right now, I mean, unless we have a total dominant team that's also a juggernaut, we're not going to get in. And as an OSU alum and fan who wants to eventually win a national championship, which I believe we can, in the right circumstance, I don't need to have help. I need to know that if we run the table or play well, that we have a chance to do this. It's the whole Houston effect, except it's a little more close to, reality. Houston's never going to get in. That's okay.
No.
They know that. That's okay. But OSU, being in a Power 12 conference, Power 5 conference, needs to know that if we play well, we can get into this thing. You know what I mean?
And it's the same with a K-State. I mean, we saw that a few years ago when K-State had a really good team. I think they only had one loss. They were on the outside after losing, essentially. But this is back in the BCS. TCU and Baylor last year, really. So I think what we have to ask ourselves is OU getting into the college football playoff and potentially winning, is that what's best for the conference, or does it only reinforce juggernaut theory? And does it change anything if there's a one-loss Kansas State or a one-loss West Virginia, I don't know, or a one-loss whoever next year, and then they get left out because, oh well, they're not OU, and so we're not going to leave them. I think it's still detrimental. I think this is just my opinion of the Big 12 anyway. But until we start doing what everyone else does, it's just not going to go well. And then with divisions, you just have the merit of not having to play everyone. Imagine a Big 12 North again. My God, every year Big 12 championship. It's like Iowa this year. All credit to Iowa. They're a good team. They played well, but who did they play in their division? Who did they play? So
there's no doubt they're a good team, and they could have won that game easily. It could have went either way, but you lost, and you just reinforced the whole you're Iowa, or whatever, which sucks for Iowa.
Sure.
And it's the same thing. It just frustrates me because, like you're talking about with Kansas State getting snubbed, and then last year TCU and Baylor getting snubbed. It's just, and quite honestly, OSU getting snubbed in 2011. It's the same thing, guys. It just pisses me off because, honestly, everybody just is okay with it. besides the teams. It's like, oh yeah, it's Iowa. They were really gonna win, or it's TCU. Really, weren't they like a MAC team or something like 3 years ago? It's like, shut up. I mean, it just frustrates me. So I'm glad OU got in. I truly am, and I think it's good for the image of our conference, but I don't think it helps anybody but OU.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's at the end of the day, it helps the juggernauts. It doesn't help anyone else. If this happens again next year, I guarantee you, if say OU isn't, the Big 12 darling, then I think we see what happened last year.
Yeah. Well, pissy EJ means that we need to wrap this thing up. We don't want him to get too pissy. So we've been on for a little over an hour now, which is probably about the time that we need to wrap this up. So I've got one last question, and we'll get out of here. And you can watch the replay on YouTube as always. So which do you guys hate more? The meerkat offense, which EJ described earlier, of ready, set, everybody look up, look at the sideline, or the clap snap? Which do you hate more? Garrett, I'm going to you first.
Clap snap is silly. I don't know. Do a silent I don't know. Anything but that. But the meerkat offense is pretty dumb. I mean, it's strange to me seeing that. We're so used to this no huddle. Everyone knows exactly what's going on. Like, just run it. And so I think for me, as a Big 12 fan, as a fan of offense, I hate when there's any interruption. And when it's you standing up like a meerkat, that's just, I don't know, that's dumb.
EJ?
Well, the funny thing is as the season has gone along, I've gotten used to the clap, and my mind almost like needs it to start the play because everybody does it. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the meerkat thing, just because, like, at some point, OSU did that forever, and then somebody called it the meerkat, which, like, I was like, I don't get it. And then I saw, like, a meerkat, like, popping his head up, and I was like, oh, I hate that. And then I couldn't not see it after that. And so, the clap, I'm like a pretty loud clapper, so, like, I think I could, like, play quarterback because I'm a loud clapper,
But do you think that maybe, just maybe, Mason Rudolph dropped one of those balls because he clapped too hard?
That's my thing. That's why I hate the clap snap. Based on what happened with OSU and what's going on. Like, one, you're never going to draw anybody off sides with the clap snap. I don't care how many times you fake it. Nobody's ever going to get drawn off.
It's not offside. It's more about showing your blitz.
Well,
it's not offsides.
But you can't.
You're like, they're like, oh, I'm going to show my blitz.
No, like, fourth and 3, you need an encroachment. You're not going to get anybody to jump off.
That's true.
With a clap snap. So that bugs me.
You literally take that out of the game.
I actually kind of like the meerkat offense. It's not that it helped anybody, but it's just one of those things, like, it always seemed like you should draw people off sides with the meerkat offense. Everybody moves at once, which just made me think, how come we didn't get more of that?
I don't know. I don't like giving the defense more time to just figure things out.
Oh, they've already got their play called. They know what they're going to do no matter what. Like, the meerkat's not going to change it unless the offense changes something.
I always thought that the defenses would show something so that you would audible into something that they wanted you to audible into.
Yep.
I've always thought that's what actually happens. It's the whole chess match thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, ooh, I'm going to show blitz. Oh, I'm going to check into a medium pass. So then I show blitz and I pop back and intercept it. It's like, it's the same thing over and over again. So how do you beat that, right? How do you beat the defense fake showing you something after you've meerkatted it or fake clapped or whatever? That's something we can all ponder.
Well, we might ponder that next week.
Yes.
For now, we got to get out of here. I'm Chris Armstrong, EJ Hayes, Garrett Sauls. Thank you guys so much for joining. It's a blast, as always. I don't know when the next one will be. We will let you guys know. But this one was brought to you by Twitchy Boykin. Hopefully he's back for his bowl game. But we are out of here.
Leave your questions for next show in the comments. Leave questions in the comments. So Chris is going to set up a show 4 And
Yep.
you can leave comments in show 4 even though it hadn't happened yet, right, Chris?
That is correct. I will set that up. We might be scheduled for Wednesday. Let's just go ahead and schedule that, and then we'll just bump it as needed if we need to.
Leave questions. We will answer them.
Leave questions. We will answer them. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
But